Hey everybody, I'm Echo33 and I'm a generative artist. Welcome to Send It, this crazy podcast where we go deep into the intersection of art and technology.
We're bringing you stories with artists, curators, tech founders, and visionaries.
Digital art can be good, but also bad, and traditional art good and bad. So I think this is a very rare trait of self-awareness. After the kind of 2020, 2021, gold rush era, we have a few years now, we can look back. How did you evolve in terms of your thinking?
It's funny because you mentioned the law word. I was trying to dance around that by saying I went to unrelated grad school. I'm not proud of having gone to law school, but with the philosophy degree, there was no job to be had. So the only way to get a free ride and buy some time while I figured out I just knew what I didn't want to do for the first 10 years of my career. And I think having had to apply, I quit out of law school in the first year and began to work a series of full-time jobs and told my employers and my family that I was in night school, but there was no night school. And then I studied for the bar exam and passed the bar exam and did some part-time legal work. But from day one, I never intended to practice. And I did everything from writing. That's how I learned to write, working part-time for law firms, worked on the floor of the stock exchange in New York, and then worked far-flung jobs like for a fashion company and as an assistant to a photographer for Gagosian. I think a lot of people criticize me. Well, actually, besides my family, a lot of other people, and for being like this consummate insider in the art world, having achieved a certain, look, I struggle and hustle every single day because business is not where my acumen lies. I'm not driven by, I would love to do well and develop my market. I did have some success in NFTs and various endeavors throughout my life, but it's never been the focus, and I don't sit with money terribly well. But I've been criticized for being right in the center of the art world and this kind of power structure that lies deeply embedded within it, and this sense of exclusivity and so forth. But the fact is that I've clawed my way to every opportunity that I've had by just applying myself with nothing more than tremendous tenacity and perseverance, which I think is a key ingredient to any career in any field, is just resilience and passion. And I just love art so much. But there's a woman who I'm already going to start inserting my foot into my mouth. But there was this woman who was the curator of the Albright Knox Museum, and now she's editor of Art Forum. And she refused to let me participate in a podcast with Kate Vass. I was disinvited because this woman said she wouldn't participate if I was in the podcast. I never met this woman in my entire life. And the fact was that she had this preconceived notion of who I was and how I got there, which she took offense to, having never had a conversation together ever. And the fact is, what people don't understand is that I am the insider's outsider. I've never taken an art class in my entire life. And I love to teach because I love to inspire people, and to the art world, both the NFT space, the digital space. The world is basically A, a Bell's curve of morality and ethics, and B, an entirely unwelcoming, inaccessible place. Even if you look at NFTs during the heyday, there were these very exclusive platforms like Super Rare and Foundation and Nifty Gateway and Maker's Place, and they were all but impossible to get a foothold in and into the system. And it's the same thing with the machinations of the art world. And what really intrigues me for dissecting these spaces are how to facilitate opportunities for people to democratize and break down some of the hierarchies that are so deeply embedded in these systems. And the reason I'm critical of myself. I'm first and foremost, and I have kids to constantly remind me of how humiliating I am regularly and how I continue to embarrass myself. But the thing is, life is very short. I've had issues, personal tragedies, like everybody has. I lost my mom when I was very young. My father was rather abusive. I lost one of my kids 6 years ago. I have 3 other kids. And art, in the most cliched, I mean, I don't want to sound corny more than I have already, but like, art is the fabric that ties us together, whether it's NFTs, art, contract art, crypto art, conceptual art, traditional painting, or anything else. Art can't exist in a vacuum. A beautiful Van Gogh painting in the bushes does not function. Art is a means of communication. And what gave me such tremendous enthusiasm for NFTs in the beginning was that it was this sense of collaboration, community, and cooperation that I had not seen in the contemporary art world since a recession that far exceeded in duration and severity, which was the recession that lasted from about 1990 to the mid-90s when I first got involved. And it's not even that the opportunities dissipated. There were no opportunities. And even in the best of times, there wasn't even a market for contemporary art as we know it. Damien Hirst, Jeff Koons, Tracy Emin, all of these artists, Peter Doig, Julie Meritu, and all these artists that are world famous right now. It wasn't even on the horizon. The market was driven by modernism, impressionism, and old masters before that. Only since the latter part of the 90s, beginning in 96, 97, did contemporary art ever find its way into the evening sales at auction. And what saddened me was that the NFT space copied some of the worst attributes of the contemporary art space in a very brief period of time. And this kind of enthusiasm and hope was quashed, was sort of like put out like a cigarette.
I was about to ask you about exactly this, because in 21 I came across your stuff and I was super inspired by your enthusiasm, your grit, just showing up everywhere, doing really cool things. And you came to Zug, to that crypto conference. You just started like a rocket from there in the crypto community, as the one guy who's established in art, or one of the few people who are actually interested in this whole weird monkey NFT business, the image that it had back then. And we did NFT art day, and I think the enthusiasm was really cool. And there was always this talk about marrying traditional art with crypto. And ever since crypto is bust, nobody really cares. Or where do you see this marriage going, or where do you see these two things happening now?
Thank you very much for your kind words. Whether or not they're warranted is another story. But
partially,
I just love art and meeting like-minded people. And on that level, I'm working with this teeny weeny little gallery. I'm in a group show in New York City called Yeche Lang, which is Jared Medare and his partner Larry. Great people doing great things in the digital space. And there's a lot of bad actors, a lot of boring people that are flogging their books and talking up their bags and all the same crap, no different from the boards of trustees of various major institutional museums. It's all a matter of human nature. I think, in a sense, the great washout was a good thing, because it's the same things happened throughout business cycles and economic cycles throughout the advent of people throughout history. The fact is that great art is being made digitally. Great art if you look at AI art in the 60s and Harold Cohn or Herbert Franke and Vera Molnar and Gottfried Jaeger. And look, there's always going to be success affirms success in the creative arts, and people want more of the same. There's always going to be a small group of people that kind of occupy the majority of the money and the attention. But what excited me about crypto in the beginning was that a lot of artists had the opportunity to onboard themselves and to create their own opportunities without relying on third parties. There's been some fundamental shifts in the creative spaces that started really with social media. platforms like in the thousands, where that was the first time where artists could create their own, cultivate their own audience and use it as a springboard for other opportunities. I mean, with me, when nobody would show my work, which is a fair amount of the time at any given year, I started to embed my digital videos and my two-dimensional work into my writing for ArtNet. So even though no gallery would touch me and I had zero market, basically, I still don't, I have a small market, but I was putting, look, art is about having your work seen and relating to people. And I just put my art into my ArtNet column. I still do. And that was around 10 years ago. And from there, even though I wasn't commercially exposed, my work was being seen by a wide audience of people because I'm the only one that writes these articles where I do something unforeseen, precedented in the art world. I tell the truth, which people recoil from. The art world is the only place where they embrace fake news. The point is, the art world is really small. When you talk about the tech space, the art world last year did probably under $65 billion in the year of gross sales. And that's what like a major tech company does at lunchtime. And as a result, it operates on this zero-sum economic basis where one person gets an opportunity or succeeds at the direct measurable expense of somebody else. So the competition is fierce and the difficulties are immense. So I just really do what I have to do, like I said before, to do what I want to do. I love art. I love to teach. I love to help people. I love to try to, like I said, create opportunities. I'm old. I've been doing this for a long time. And whereas before you would have to try to get exposure into an art gallery as a young artist or an old artist without a gallery, you'd have to be in a group show, create some kind of exposure on a commercial gallery level. But NFTs for me were the greatest thing I've seen. The art world hasn't changed the art market in 200 years. God, I'm rambling. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I've already had tech problems. I've only had one cup of coffee. I'm sorry to everyone who's listening or sleeping or not listening. Whatever. The thing is, now with social media, with Twitter, and I refuse to call it the other name, and Instagram, and then Tezos, Solana, Ethereum, and these are just amazing tools that people take for granted, just didn't exist only a short while ago. And they're in their embryonic stages right now. So of course, NFTs will never go anywhere. When the NFTs went up, the art world hated NFTs because it was encroaching on their territory. They hated NFTs going up. They hate NFTs going down. Rather than just embracing new technologies, the art world hates innovation, hates change, loves the same audience, buying the same again and again and again and again. And you could like suffocate yourself with how stifling this field is unless you just do things for yourself, for your peers, for your family, and then just find ways to express yourself. And that's all you could do.
I remember you mentioned in an interview on Cointelegraph that pre-NFT days, people were getting files on a USB stick. Thinking about this today, this is insane. And the NFT use case in this specific scenario is very much obvious, I believe.
I mean, it's funny because I had this tongue-in-cheek retrospective of my work in the attic of a little gallery in Long Island in 2018. And I sold a collection of my video animations that I had been introducing into my ArtNet writing, but I had been making for 30 years. And I sold like a group of animations on a USB stick. I did that multiple times. I would make a little box, a cute little box to make it look like art, when it was just like a USB stick. And I don't know what videos are on it. I don't know what additions are. I keep sliding off this chair. I've been cutting up to pieces to accommodate my recent back surgery. But I mean, that's the way it was. Things have changed. 1 year in technology, I always say like a year in technology is like dog years. It's like 7 years in real life. That USB situation was in 2018. It wasn't exactly like decades and decades ago. And like when I think of people's reticence and dismissal of NFTs and the scorn they continue to heap upon it, I made this word NFTism, which was about this collaboration, community, and all of this.
And you trademarked it as well.
Well, I mean, I tried to trademark it, but it was just conceptual and it wasn't worth pissing away more. I'm so bad with money. It wasn't worth the legal fees to make an effort that had no application. But then I did the tattoo and then I changed it from NFTism to post NFTism. I think the problem with crypto, which it continues to plague this industry and the mass adaptation of crypto, is the complexity, hopping between currencies and wallets and having to go through 3 levels of exchange and fees gouging before you can convert one currency to fiat, for instance. And the crime, like I've been hacked when Nick sent me a link to this podcast, the last time someone sent me a link to a podcast for an interview not a podcast, it was a link to an interview on Bomb Magazine, an esoteric art magazine. I got the crap hacked out of me. And that was about the 3rd or 4th time. And it was so ingenious, the hack, I can only take my hat off and say, well done, because it was so geared through AI towards me, towards my career. And they just played me so hard. And I lost $40,000. And whether it's losing one NFT or significantly more, you just feel exploited because look, I could be an asshole. I'm critical.
It's the worst.
But you just feel like I've been robbed at knife point in the UK and locked in a closet. And that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel differently when your personal space. My laptop, for all I know, there's a virus still sleeping like a little baby on my hard drive somewhere, even though I've gone to great lengths to ferret it out. But every time I open a ledger, I'm half expecting it for that to be hacked out,
Do you think this is what's holding back the traditional art world, or is it because the zero-sum game, as you mentioned before, or is it a combination of both? Do you have any insights about, even if you describe as the outsider of the art world, I think you genuinely have strong insights about it. I'm very curious about how to increase or how to get more traditional art collectors within the digital/NFT space.
And that's a really excellent, brilliant question, because when you think about it, it seems so obvious. The fact is, number one, I'm surrounded by a ton of art where I'm sitting right now, all little pieces that are all very significant to me. There's one little screen. I had another screen for my wallet stuff and had a technical problem. And in the interim period where they were replacing the screen, I put up a painting. And the fact is, I love to rub my nose. The first thing I see when I open my eyes and the last thing I see are drawings and little paintings and artworks of all stripes. And one of the things is the complexity. Another thing is the old white people regime that still rules roost over the whole entire art world. They don't want any change to the status quo because that's where all the money comes from. These kind of relationships that just roll over again and again and again and again from transaction to transaction. But I think the complexity, the crime, that has to dissipate. And it has to become easier for mass adaptation, but also the physical aspect. When you have video, I make video art and I make digital art, but I've collected a load of drawings and sculptures and paintings. And there has to be, even though it sounds like David Hockney said, NFTs are for criminals, not even good criminals, but little criminals. But the fact is, whenever I try to explain to someone who doesn't understand an NFT, I always use David Hockney as the example. Would you rather buy a photograph of his iPad drawing, or would you rather buy the high-res output with which he created it? And of course, people say, oh, you could just copy it. You can copy a digital file. I could copy a Van Gogh painting in China for $150, where it would be indistinguishable to a layperson's eyes, other than an expert that would do a carbon-14 test on the pigment. But the fact that you can copy digital art or any other form of art is insignificant. It's pointless. Art is a matter of intent. So I think that the fact that art, I think the reticence, the people resist NFTs and digital art. I think having a physical component of, if I own the David Hockney high-res file rather than an output 30 by 40 inches by Pace for X hundreds of thousands of dollars, then I could take that David Hockney iPad drawing and make a projection. I could have it turned into a painting. I could make a photograph, any size, multiple iterations of it. So I think for digital art to become more widespread, we need dedicated devices for the display of digital art that are more accessible in the home, easier to live with. Whether you output things or when you sell an NFT, you very much emphasize the fact that you can create a sculpture from it, a 3D print, a painting, a photograph. I mean, because in the end, when you have a video or something I call a cocktail party art, you really only see it when you turn it on. You want art that you don't have to go to great lengths to experience. So I think when it was a big misstep with Apple with this goggles for like $4,000. The battery lasts for 4 minutes, and every time you fart, they crack. They were prohibitively expensive. That was just such a lost opportunity. I did at one point, like in 2023, I went to a bunch of companies that were creating like 3D screens without the goggles, like a flat screen TV. It looked like, for all intents and purposes, but it was had 3D functionality, in the same way that you would get a bit of that experience from this immersive experience with the goggles. I think the technology soon will have devices, I feel like in a short period of time, where you'll be able to project like a 3D image into a room. I just think again, like it's so strange because we make these tremendous technological advancements in science and medicine, but yet if you want to fly from Milan to New York, it takes 9 hours. It's absurd. Whereas in some ways we make these tremendous leaps in innovation. In other ways, we're just stuck in like the 50s. So I think for the art, like your art is extraordinary, but owning a piece of your art, I would want to see it every single day with the greatest of ease, without the least, pre-thought about how to present it or having to turn it on. As simple as that. So I think these interfaces with the wallets and the cryptos and conversions, and that has to all become simplified. And people talk about crypto is great because it's decentralized and it usurps the power from centralized banks and government, but that's just such bullshit, because in the end, the reason a credit card is good is because when you my credit card gets robbed more than my MetaMask. But I just call up the bank and they give me another credit card and they give me the credit for the crime. The only thing that's decentralized in crypto are the hackers. The rest is all, and we need more security. We need some kind of checks and balances where people could just be, you don't want to risk your life savings, based on the fact of whether someone's going to figure out a way to take from your ledger or from your cold storage or from your laptop. It's frightening and it scares me, and it's a bit discouraging.
If we try to look the other way, what do you think most digital art collectors don't get about the traditional art world?
If I can answer this for 1 second, I feel like when I go to a traditional art gathering, whether it's Miami Beach or some really high-end function, I feel slightly bored compared to a Kenny show or a digital art show that's very well put together. I feel bored. There's a bunch of white old men thinking about paintings that are a couple $1 million that nobody can afford besides them.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, I've been to digital art shows with 15 television sets, and it looks like Best Buy showroom to go buy another appliance that you don't need. So
that's true.
What I think is the most important thing, which spans digital art and computers are not for young people. I did a collaboration with Dakis Joannou, who's was in his early 30s, this amazing Greek art collector who has a museum, who has a boat painted by Jeff Koons. His whole house is more museum than house and has like labels and like 60% of the house, there's not even a chair. It's pure devotion to art. What we need is something very simple, and it transcends the problems with the art world and the digital art space. What we need is humanity, generosity, curiosity, open-mindedness, and people just putting aside their prejudices, whether it's for, I mean, look at the racism in the world, that's still a problem, the kind of dismissal of people that don't neatly fit within a certain pigeonhole or compartmentalization. People just need to appreciate and give the benefit of the doubt. Like Tina Rivers Ryan not participating in a podcast because I'm on it. Why not speak to me and find out whether or not I'm as hateable as she thinks I am? Why not give me the chance to like present myself and to appeal to someone or not? Look, a lot of people don't like me. A lot of people don't like my work because I'm opinionated and I'm not shy about expressing it. I don't profess to have the answer to anything or not, but I try. I love my work. I love to do what I do, and I'll continue to do it by any means necessary. Even there, you know, I at least have an open mind enough to entertain opposing views, you know, and try to understand why people would feel the way they do and not just dismiss people without any reason.
Let me ask this, like, if you're a digital artist and you did pretty well, or what, you know, you made a name for yourself, how do you enter the traditional market, or should you even bother about this?
How do I sell an NFT today? Beyond like for 3 pesos. Look, you know, there's no, people call, you know, I always say, and this is very important for anyone that will get through to this point, because I bored the shit out of everyone, including myself. I'm sorry that I just rambled on, but come on.
No,
It's
no,
early.
not at all.
Right.
Okay, but listen, like I lost one of my kids. I have 3 other children. I want to help people. I want to find a reason to get up in the morning and to make whatever's left of my life, the limited amount of time, meaningful in some way. Art imbues my life with meaning. And I've had drug problems, I've had alcohol problems, and now I don't on that front. I have a lot of other problems. But being able to speak to people and to inspire people. I had a show in Linz at the Francesco Carolinum, Keep Hope Alive. I was in a group show, which I wasn't even supposed to be in, Proof of Art, in 21, one of the first institutional NFT show. I was meant to write an essay. I ended up putting lyrics to a song about all the how the art world dismissed NFTs because of, I mean, the art world dismissed NFTs first and foremost for environmental issues. And I did this ridiculous song, which made my kids not speak to me for some good time. It ended up, I made a music video. It sold at like Sotheby's for 20 grand. But the art world is complaining about environmental damage. Meanwhile, wooden shipping crates could only be used once for various security problems and compositional problems. There's bubble wrap, there's traveling to art fairs, hotels. You go to Hong Kong, you'll see 20% of the galleries from your own jurisdiction. People should go to galleries more at home than worry about going to the latest Basel iteration to see more of the same stuff they could see in their front yard. The art world is the most hypocritical, disingenuous place in the world. So it's not like how can I get in? First of all, what I meant to say was, if anyone has any question besides this run-on rambling that I'm doing, if I could help anybody in any way, get in touch with me, whether it's DM, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, email. If you ask me a question, I will do my very best to help you in any way I can. All I ask is one very simple thing, and it's manners. Like, people were calling me up during the NFT heyday, well-known artists with bigger markets than I have ever had. Get me into Nifty Gateway. Get me onto Nifty Gateway. Or now I just get like, I need a gallery in New York. Can you help me sell my art? Like, help me sell my art. So it's not a matter of how do I get into the traditional art world? How do I get on? It's weird because the whole lifespan of NFTs is really echoed almost, it's been like a mass accelerated synopsis of the entire art market in 200 years. You have all of these peaks and troughs and trajectories that in 2 years, in 2 to 3 years, that have happened ad infinitum in the traditional art world. It's not a matter of how do I get into the traditional art world. You're just coming from the wrong approach to start with. There is no traditional art world anymore. There is no, galleries are a dead model. Like, sure, they have great attributes to them. You can't get into a gallery. Galleries are the only galleries that are making any money are like Hauser, which is in the hotel, hospitality, restaurant business. I made an artwork some years ago. I made a Hauser and Wirth old age home. You have to do it yourself. First of all, the art has to be good enough to appeal to someone. And another thing that's important is find other ways to make money. Because if you think you're going to be relying on your artwork, you can't rely on anything to make money. If you really want to pursue your dream and your passion, you don't just need a plan B. You need a plan. I'm spitting away. You're getting me all excited. You need a plan. You need a plan B, C, and D. So when I could sell NFTs, I sold NFTs. When I was in Discord every day for 2 years, when I did these crypto mutts, like taking the piss out of the apes and PFP craze. And when that stopped, I do a hoarder sale where I sell the junk that I've accumulated over 35 years in the art world. I've done 5 sales at Sotheby's over the past 6 years. And now I'm going to do hoarder number 6 at Phillips in July, where I sell stuff for no reserve. I lose money, I break even, I make some money. It doesn't matter because it's a liquidity event. Malcolm X, and I am the wrong person, a Jew from Long Island, to quote Malcolm X. But in his pursuit of civil rights and equality, he said any means necessary. And with all due extreme respect, I think that's an incredible notion. I mean, he was talking about the fact that you should use Mortal Kombat to achieve parity in civil rights. But the fact is, life is so short, you want to get stuck living your life for the weekend, for the summer, for holidays. You want to make your life the holiday. Your work life should be the dream. And that should be what gives you the most satisfaction and joy. And get part-time jobs, band together with your peers and take over empty storefronts as more and more of the retail environment shifts to e-commerce. There's empty storefronts in every city, on every block. Take over a storefront, do an NFT show with physical stuff. Try to communicate to people in a language and on a basis that they can understand and appreciate. And what do you want to be in the traditional art world anyway, where like you make one body of work and it succeeds, and that's all the contemporary art space will ever want you to do again, is more of the same stuff. You branch out and you do different bodies of work, and then you get shut down as fast as you had an opportunity. So there's no solution, and there is no traditional art world. How do you sell NFTs today? I mean, I just try to find fun, interesting, engaging people that are nice to be around, that inspire me, that further my thinking, that I want to learn.
I think that question is for Jean-Jacques. How do you sell NFTs today? He is like the best-selling artist currently in NFTs.
You know why? I'll tell you why, and I don't even know that much of the work, and I didn't even give him a damn chance to ask a question, because his work is great. His work is so interesting. It's complex. I would never begin to profess to understand the how of how he does it. It looks great. You could tell there's a deep intelligence behind it. And it's attractive, and it appeals to people across a wide spectrum of tech people, people that never knew how to operate a computer or have a wallet. It's just good work. And the most important thing is that you just do what you do for the right reasons, not to get an art market, not to be famous, but do the things that you love to do, that you need to do, that you course through your circulatory system. I don't know his floor, his market. Jean-Jacques, sorry to speak about you in that, but from the second I started digging into the work, I love the work. It made all of these associations in my mind, from like Fidenzas on crack, it was just like the craziest. You're putting me in that camp.
No.
I mean, that's even a bad reference. The fact is, it works on so many levels, from the basic elements of color, composition, and the way it is references various aspects of art from all different sectors. That's really the most important thing of what we're talking about. You contacted me. You'll probably never want to speak to me again for the rest of your life. But the fact is, we're sitting here having shared ground, coming from wildly disparate backgrounds, both geographically and work related, and in all the different aspects of our lives have converged on this point. And there's things we have in common. There are things that are dissimilar, but we're amenable to having a conversation. Such a nice French person is an anomaly in itself. It's just,
It's because
you know,
I'm
look,
half Swiss also.
I love Switzerland.
Swiss people are even just as bad as French, no?
There are some grumpy fucking people in Switzerland, but that's, again, like, these kinds of things we're talking about ultimately lead to some bad things. Because the fact is, like I say, people think the art world or the crypto world is a cesspool of corruption. It's, people say AI is going to destroy civilization. We're going to destroy civilization. I've never met a bad computer. I've met bad actors that are programming the computer. AI is a tool. AI is this no different from like a paintbrush or a typewriter. It's just, it takes advantage of the intelligence and technology that's been existing and has existed and will exist, and it uses it to untold ways that we never would have thought possible. It has extraordinary opportunity and potential. Of course, there's potential for bad things to happen, but that relates to the very nature of human beings, which, I mean, art is the only thing that differentiates our species from any other, that we create art for the sole sake in and of itself for this aesthetic activity, and how we use it. I mean, it's a, look, if we pull our together as civilization, we'll continue. Just as likely we won't.
My favorite quote of all time from an artist is from Frieder Nake. He says, "We live and we die, and therefore we are creative because of the event of death." And he compared that to AI. That's why he thinks that AI will never be whatever people are.
AI will be whatever people make it. AI, there'll be Van Gogh AIs and artists.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly, whatever people make it. I mean, a huge part of why NFTs sort of took a deep dive was Elon buying X, and the algorithms changed and things didn't get shared or, as well as before.
Well, that's the business model of Instagram, fake notion of community.
Yes, you always make satire about whether it's Damien Hirst, Donald Trump, Elon Musk. What's currently being sort of the focus? I mean, besides the obvious election, what is pissing you off?
Well, I'm trying to find more hopeful things, and just trying to, I mean, I don't think it's Elon Musk buying X or anything of the sort. I just think it's what fucked up NFTs was greed, basic greed. I didn't like the punks when they first came out. Then I began to really appreciate. I didn't like Warhol when I first saw Warhol. I didn't even know art galleries existed until I was 26 years old. I didn't go to a museum until I was in university. And I think that we need to apply ourselves. We need to think. We need to stew, and art is a slow burning process. Even technology, conceptually, everything, to learn and to think and to really grapple with something and appreciate it takes time. And it wasn't any algorithm that resulted in the collapse of any given thing. It's greed. And it's like the punks, which were the first paradigm shift of was it art? It wasn't created with the intent of being art, which is normally, for me, one of the most integral parts of what defines art. If I say this is art, like Duchamp, then it's art. It's a matter of intent. But Matt and John didn't create the punks they just created the punks, which is the beauty of it. And then people ascribed ex post facto, it's art, it's this, it's that. the fact was it was super amazing because it was this new genre of like collectible type of thing. It wasn't this, it wasn't that, but it was everything. But then they sold it to the apes and then it became nothing in my mind. I mean, I just think like, and that's endemic of what that was the beginning of the end. Like that should have kept its autonomy because it was like, you know, one of the significant benchmarks of this whole phenomenon. And in the end, the whole NFT space became like synonymous with like the shitcoin thing, where everything was a derivative for a substitute for security and how to make the most money in the shortest period of time. The same exact mentality pervades the contemporary art market or every other market. Again, it's just the great things are created by people and great things get destroyed by the same impetus by other people. Look, there's going to be extraordinary crypto art, smart contract art, generative art. We're sitting with a great artist and the guy hasn't had a chance to say one thing. I'd rather just see a slideshow of the history of your artistic output than hear me talk stupidity for an hour and plus. But it's all going to be good because it exists and you can never put the genie, you can't put the ETH back in the ether. The ETH is out. This whole world is going to have profound continuing effects that will take deeper and deeper roots throughout society, throughout commercial enterprise, throughout creative endeavors. We're just at the beginning and there's a lot of hiccups. It's always 3 steps forward, 6 steps backwards. There's going to be great things, new platforms, new initiatives by great thinkers and artists and programmers. I mean, I've given, like when I flew to Zurich for one day to do that crypto conference, I was the only art person in the entire crowd. That's the only reason I flew there, because I like to communicate with people that are naysayers, that don't appreciate one thing, and I try to express it in a way that's palatable or understandable so people can make their own minds up and develop appreciation or not without all of these external, like the art world, they pigeonhole you, they look you up and down, they make all of these assertions and judgments. It's like, drop the judgments. I'm a very judgmental person, but again, I have the capacity to learn and to make mistakes and learn from them. I make a mistake 400 times in the past hour that we've been talking, but I'll think about it, I'll learn from it, I'll change. And I just think we just need a greater tolerance for each other and for the ways of thinking and doing.
Jean-Jacques, you want to talk about your art a little bit?
Please, I beg you, I'm done.
No, it's supposed to be really about you, Kenny, but thank you for, I mean, all the great words. And for me, there's plenty of things to take away from the discussion we had so far. A lot of insights to help artists and collectors, I think, in many different aspects. For me, this kind of communication around the artwork and the Van Gogh in a bush won't work. I try to do the same thing as much as I can with my own works, where, for example, this year, I don't plan to release much works, but I plan to release much more content, for the lack of a better word, like we do right now. So helping people to learn from successful, interesting, smart actors in the world, the traditional art and digital art, but also contextualizing things much more. And AI is just a tool. There's no bad algorithm or good algorithms. It's just like coders at the end of the day, and politicians to some extent, or marketers, or depending on where you look at. So yeah, for me, art is essentially questioning myself about what does it mean to be human, especially today where we have all these kind of synthetic humans surrounding us, all these kind of AI agents, which is misleading just the way it is being called. I'm not too sure what kind of agent there is in these AI algorithms, but so yeah, it's questioning this, and it's an introspection. It's a way to meet great people along the way. I think for me, this is meeting people and spending time with them, trying to know each other's, helping each other out, not seeing things as a zero-sum game. To me, this makes no sense, even though I agree with the statement that this is a zero-sum game. I mean, that this is not an infinite amount of collecting and money inflowing the art world. But looking at it like this, for me, is like destroying everything. So I'd rather kind of blue pill me by trying to say we are just friends making art and trying to have good time together and helping the collectors to having great moments as well by speaking with the artists, helping collectors one and the others. Yeah, that's for me what I enjoy the most. And of course, being vulnerable and putting your neck on the line. When you mentioned that, yeah, people want like one big body of work, and when you create something else, well, it's just like you're not the hot thing anymore. So we are moving to something else. I like to put my neck on the line all the time. So recreating new body of works, experimenting with very different, sometimes unpopular ideas. This is what makes it very fun as well, because doing more of the same, this is like the dead of your brain in a way. So yeah, for me, it's all about everything around the art, giving your best to the different layers of what makes, I think, an interesting artwork. But first and foremost is everyone we meet along the way.
I think the most important thing for NFTs for me is that you have independent creators that with independent ideas and sort of like more authenticity. Like right now, you talk about AI agents. What comes to my mind is that most of these artists or the movies you watch on Netflix or the traditional art market, they behave like AI agents. They're all the same, influenced by the same algorithm. They're not independent creators.
You just, Jean-Jacques, you touched upon, like, you brought to mind two things that I think are really important. Like when you talk about collectors and stuff, people have to trust their own instinct for things. And it's like, how do you collect? How do you dip your toes into this super diverse and complicated space? And really, you have to just trust your first instinct. Like, you have to love something. You have to have the right reason to want to get involved. If you're a collector, like you were saying before, young collectors or digital collectors, how do you, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but you have to buy stuff you love. Anytime I've ever tried to buy anything throughout my various pasts, if I ever tried to buy something because I thought I could make some money, I've always lost money invariably, every time. So really, you have to do things for the right reason, and it's like because you care, because it touches you and it moves you and it inspires you and it stirs you to think and to learn. And sometimes it takes time. And the other thing is, like what you said, to put your neck on the line. Like, you have to fail. You have to humiliate. Art is about exposing yourself and expressing yourself as much as it is about, I mean, the equation must be completed by, you can't be a writer and not be read. You can't be an artist and not be seen. You can't be a coder and not have your work to be utilized by an audience. And you have to be an artist or to do anything entrepreneurial or otherwise, you have to make a fool of yourself. And in that regard, I am the master of humiliation and embarrassment to my kids. But it's like, oftentimes the things that I'm most insecure about and most unsure of are the things that work the best. Because you just, and like you said, like if you spent your life feeding this self-fulfilling notion of success, or creating art fair work or work that's done well before, you may as well be a lawyer, for Christ's sakes, because that's just a terrible, suffocating way to live your life. And you just really have to find what gives you the joy and what you would do for free. Find a way to make that your life's pursuit. Living with work, storing the work, keeping it on your wallet, on your phone, on your computer, whatever you derive pleasure from, and just try to understand it. Like that self-awareness and self-criticality. I'm not just, I mean, look, I could be a pain in the ass and I annoy myself regularly enough, but I'm appreciative that I'm a human being that makes, like, yeah, I make a lot of mistakes, and I try to be open-minded and give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And if something upsets me, then and if I upset other people, I want people to speak. I mean, I've had this art dealer that tells me my paintings are terrible, and doesn't tell me why. And that's the most unhealthy scenario, when my kids are super critical as well. And we critique each other's works, but in a very beneficial fashion, which is explicating, which is explaining why you think something works and why it doesn't. And I think we just need more open channels of communication without self-fulfilling preconceived notions with unwarranted judgments, in a sense.
Thank you, Kenny. This was sick.
You guys, sorry to like bore the crap out of you for.
No.
No, not at all. It was very, very fully packed of very insightful shared experience.
Do you have a website with your archive on it that I could learn some more?
Yes. I will send you a summary.
Please, because I'm fascinated by it.
Thank you very much.
Anyone who's listening to this, contact me, ask me any questions. And I honestly mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like, if I could help, I will. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. And yeah, I'm really thankful and grateful.